Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. In today's video, I'll be doing a review of the Resident Evil 3 Remake, so let's get into it. So I've been a huge Resident Evil fan since the very beginning, played the original game on PlayStation 1, Resident Evil 2 on PlayStation 1, and eventually Resident Evil 3 on PlayStation 1 as well. And so we owned Resident Evil 1 and 2 growing up, and so I played that a lot. And Resident Evil 2 was one of my favorite zombie games ever, but we never owned Resident Evil 3, so I'd only rented it before and played it through the one time. So I didn't necessarily have the same nostalgia level going into the Resident Evil 3 remake like I did as Resident Evil 2, but I was still excited to play it because I enjoyed the Resident Evil 2 remake so much and was excited to play this game. But inevitably, it got pushed into my backlog forever, and I finally got a chance to play it and go through it. And so like I said, in today's video, we'll review this game, see if it's as good as the Resident Evil 2 remake, and what I thought about it. So this game, the storyline, you follow Jill Valentine and a mercenary working with Umbrella, Carlos, as they go through Raccoon City while trying to avoid a new bioweapon from Umbrella, Nemesis. And so this gigantic monster is pretty similar to the Terminator. Virtually nothing kills it, and it keeps coming back for more no matter what they throw at it. So it's pretty intense being chased by this huge monster. And so as you go through Raccoon City, you're also trying to find a vaccine and cure for the deadly T-virus outbreak that's happening in Raccoon City before the city is wiped out by nuclear missiles. And so like I said, Resident Evil 2 is one of my favorites in the Resident Evil series, and so it's really cool to be able to get to go back into Raccoon City, but then see it from a totally different perspective in this game. Another thing that I thought was really cool was that if you've played the Resident Evil 2 remake, you revisit some of the aspects of that game as well, as both of the two games' storylines are happening at the same time. You just happen to go through some of the areas that were in Resident Evil 2 prior to those events happening, at least at the time you go through them in this game. And so having recently played through that one as well, it was really cool to see those parallels between the two games. Now for the most part in this game, you strictly play as Jill Valentine. There is some sections of the game where you play as Carlos as well, and it plays similar to most of the early Resident Evil games, where you have limited inventory spaces, limited ammo. You're collecting different ammunition, different weapons. You're finding items to unlock doors and get through different areas. You'll also find weapon upgrades along the way that you can equip to weapons. And then there's some minor puzzle solving elements to the game as well. Now, one thing that I really like about these Resident Evil remakes is the fact that they went from the bird's eye view camera angle to being a third-person shooter game. And so I think that really improves the intensity level in the games, because again, you don't see the entire area all at once. So there's a lot more opportunities for zombies and monsters and creatures to sneak up on you. And so that gets incredibly intense, especially with Nemesis chasing you, because you're typically running in one direction, Nemesis is chasing you from the other, and so you don't exactly know where he is to be able to dodge incoming attacks. The game also does introduce a cool dodge feature where if you time it just right, you can dive away from zombies or tackle them, depending on if you're playing as Jill or Carlos. And so I think that was a fun addition to the game. Still kind of hard to execute though, so a lot of times you're going to have those zombies and other monsters get you, even while you're trying to do this dodge ability. There are some really cool environments that you go into as well. So in addition to going through the zombie-infested Raccoon City, going through apartment buildings, shops, and more, there's also scenes where you go through a hospital, and so I thought that was really cool. It made me feel like I was playing the very beginning of The Walking Dead. Now I kind of feel like the game itself is a little bit shorter than other Resident Evil games, mostly because a lot of the earlier Resident Evil games you tended to play as two different characters. So like in Resident Evil 2, you played as Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield, and so you'd kind of have the game campaign with one of the characters, and then once you beat it, you could play through as the other one and experience some of their perspectives of what was going on during the story. But with this game, you just really play through the one way, and so like I said, you switch off between Jill and Carlos versus having two separate campaigns for each one. So I was a little bit disappointed when I beat the game and found that I didn't get to play through a whole nother time with a completely different perspective as that other character. Now, one thing that is pretty cool though is that you do unlock different bonuses once you beat the game. So you earn points as you play the game, which isn't really revealed until after you beat it. But once you start that new game, you have the option to go to a store and buy a variety of different power-ups. So whether that's new outfits, items that can improve your health or your defense, starting with better weapons and more, you can pick and choose which ones you want to buy. So I think that adds to the replay value of the game. And then you can obviously also try and beat the game on different difficulty levels. There's 3 option levels you can pick from that can give you additional replay value as well. Now the game also includes an extra bonus game, Resident Evil Resistance. And so this is kind of a unique multiplayer game where you take on the role of a mastermind or a survivor. And so the mastermind is kind of like the bad guys, and so you'll be able to put out different traps and zombies and monsters to try and take out different survivors within a specific time limit. Or you can play as the survivors and try and survive the time limit. So you'll have different weapons you can get. You'll earn the ability to buy new weapons and upgrades as you play and solve different puzzles to try and survive the mastermind trying to kill you. And so I think it's a cool bonus. Unfortunately though, I bought the game on PlayStation 4, and in order to play that online aspect, you needed to have a PlayStation Plus membership, which I don't. Most of the online gaming I do is on either my Xbox or on my Switch, and so I never really felt the need to buy a third service to do that. And so I wish I would have known that going into the game, because I probably would have just gotten the game on Xbox versus PlayStation, as I'm sure that's probably included if you have an Xbox Live membership, which I already have. So something to keep in mind, to pay attention to, depending on what system you buy it on, if you want to play this extra Resident Evil Resistance game that comes with Resident Evil 3. But overall, I really like this game. I think it's a great remaster and remake of the original game. In my opinion, it's not necessarily as good as some of the other Resident Evil games, but it is still a great zombie game, and I think it's worth playing if you haven't yet. But let me know in the comments below, how does this Resident Evil compare to the others in the series? Is it one of your favorites? Do you like others better? Do you think they did a good job doing this remake? Have you played that Resident Evil Resistance game yet? How do you like that? Let me know in the comments below. If you guys like this video, be sure to smash that like button, as it really helps out the channel. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. And if you'd like to help us support the channel, pick out content and more, become a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel, you can follow us on Twitch at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.